Stom, with the, again, Katon, the two-part note. The city of Stom deserved to be ruled by Bera, who qualified to satisfy the inhabitants and represent them to the outside in the sense of minhag kefi hamanhig, the custom like the leader, as suggested by the bipartite shape of the reading line. The way that they were, that's the way he was. The way that they wanted to show the rest of the world, that's what he radiated. And with Birsha, Viet Birsha, with the Tikha, so again looking backwards with a small pause after it. Every bad has company. So did Bera find a parallel, and with Birsha he duplicated his rules as referred backwards by the directional shape of the reading line. So again, as in the last pasuk, when we have a Tipcha on the second name, it's going to say that he's got a similarity in style to what came before him. So Birsha has the same style as Bera, and again, we have the second side note, Beit Rasha. He's double evil. He's double malicious, just like Bera Beit Ra, Birsha Beit Rasha. Two applied dreadful methods, which were composed of physical, emotional, and mental traumatic. So again, he was someone who would give evil and tell you that it was good. Amora, with the stabilizing at Mata, Avamora, number 8. Again, this one.
Melech, 7.
Melech. We missed the Melech again. Again, with a Munach. So strong demarcation moving forward. Number 7. By his despotic nature, which was accepted by the people of his district, he became king, who represented the inhabitants of his district as expressed by the shape of the reading line. And again, I think we're going to say this one is the same as the other, as number 4. That's the way that they were before, and he fit the model. I think we're trying to say the same thing again here with the Menach. Number 8 of Amorah. Now we get to it. The stabilizing at Mata. While he was ruler of Amorah, it became comparable to its sister city Stom, as specified by the stabilizing shape of the related reading line. So to have a pair of the same is stronger than to have one of the same. So that's the stabilizing element. And we have the side note again. The name Amorah, in relationship to its ruler Birsha, indicates that its people were a corresponding match, being malicious to each other, and even more to strangers, disregarding all the laws of God, as exemplified by the word Mar Hashem. A nation, and I'm thinking Mar is either bitter towards, or it could be a derivation of Limrod, of rebelling against. So I think he actually meant Mar as bitter, a nation that's bitter towards God, but it might be even a more elided form, and that's a nation that's rebellious against. So again, when you take a concept and you elide it into a name, certainly letters could disappear as well. So Birsha, the person who is twice evil, is the fitting king for a nation who is bitter towards God. Shinav, with a Munach. So we have in the next three notes, number 9, number 10, number 11, Munach, Revi'i. After the first Munach in this sequence, there's always a psik. There's always a straight line that tells you you're going to pause after the first word. So separate it out because it's a Munach. It's going to go forward, and then we're going to stop immediately afterwards again. This is going to have a pause before and a pause after type of thing. Another member of the alliance was Shinav. who resented any kind of authority or superiority in the meaning of his name. We'll see Rashi. Shin Ab, Soneh Ab, hating a father or an elder, as illustrated by the shape of the reading mark, followed by the psik. He was someone who felt that there was no reason to pay any honor or obeisance to what came before him, which means you don't honor father. He didn't give you anything. Everything you got you earned by yourself. And similarly, if you go farther back, you don't honor God, because again, everything that you earned it by yourself. So he's self-made it to the extreme. Literally to the point of hating anything that came from before, because it says that it didn't come from him. So he's the be-all and end-all. Therefore, he has a stop before him and a stop after him. I'm it. That's what the psik afterwards tells us. Melech, again with the menach. This is going to have a sharp demarcation and then move forward. Number 10. Appealing by his philosophy, he was elected king by the dwellers of his district, as conveyed by the shape of the reading mark. And again, I think we're going to take the same interpretation that we said before. The people were like that, and therefore the king was a natural fit for them. They were that way to start, and they went forward with him because that's exactly who they were. Adma, of Adma, number 11. The district he ruled is specified as that of Adma. That name symbolized the essence of his concepts, the ground, Adma, Adama, as demonstrated by the broad meaning of the reading mark. So Adma is something that spreads, the Rebi'i is something that spreads out, gives you breadth. Ground, Adma, we have the comment. This provides the core of Shinav's teachings with regard to man's main orientation. Everything derives from the ground, which is also the domicile for the final return. Therefore, one should take advantage of his temporary presence there and get the maximum of pleasure while being above the ground, i.e. carpe diem, seize the day. The heavens, like the great depths, have no meaning to man, who is created to live and enjoy only on the ground, because at the end the earth will take possession of it. So if you don't believe in anything eternal, if you are the be-all and end-all, then you better have fun and party today and not care about anyone else, because otherwise you're just not going to get it. So that's who the be-all and end-all was, and the city that you would live in would be something that was temporary and fleeting, because if you couldn't grab it now, you wouldn't have it. So you literally talk about being related to the ground because you're temporary and that's where you're going back to. This Shem Aver and Shem Aver with two pashtaot again, double forward-looking note. And Shem Aver had joined this group, becoming an addition not only due to the quality of his people, but also on account of the quality of his ideology, as depicted by the double directional reading shape of the reading mark. So again, we have a double reading mark. So it tells you not only is it because he's like them, but his philosophy is like them. So that's why we have the double note. Shem Aver, a name of an organ. As the name indicates, his theory stressed that just like each organ has its own name and deserves separate satisfaction, so do the desires of the body in general need consideration. No restriction or prohibition should be imposed on any rule of morals or religion. Protection from any damage should be left to the individual. So survival of the fittest, you do the rule of the strongest. If you can take it, it's yours. Melech, king, again, with a munach, so we're going to expect probably the same concept here. This popularity among the people made him become king, and they strengthened his concepts by a vast majority of supporters as signified by the shape of the reading mark. So here he's taken the note and he's actually given it a little bit of a different spin. He's saying the people are like that, and they sort of are egging on the king to do more. So it's still got that demarcation from before. The people were like that before, but they're pushing the king forward, not the king being a good fit. So I thought that was interesting that again we had the same note and we gave it that little bit of a different spin.
So why does he use that here, the other meaning and the other melech with the munach?
Probably in relationship to the name and the philosophy that he is applying to the name. So it's in the context of the words more than the definition of the definition of the note still applies, but the context of the words is going to shape the way that we apply it. Of Tzvoyim, number 14, because of his postulates to enjoy all available pleasures of life, he was recognized as a patron of tzvoyim, desires or luxuries, as pointed out by the bipartite shape of the reading. So again, this is a two-part note, a katon, with one perhaps higher and one perhaps lower. And again, you've got to grab everything, and if you can take it, it's yours, and you can take the pleasure from it.
Is this just ink on the sheet, or what's above the vav?
So the word has a ktiv and a kri, a way that it's written and a way that it's pronounced. It is written Tzvi, Tzadi, Beit, Yud, Yud, Mem, and it's pronounced Tzadi, Beit, Vav, Yud, Mem. So the thing on top of the Yud is to tell you that this is a ktiv and a kri. This is written one way and pronounced another way. And the thing on top of the bait, I'm not sure why that's there.
It's not even a symbol or a dot that I've ever seen. From my eyes, it looks like an empty circle.
So yeah, does he have a side note about it? He does not.
And it could have just been something on the press then.
What is it in the original Chumash? Is it also a simple
yes.
There's nothing in the print of Torah that has it, but it is a ktiv and a kri. So it is written tzviim and pronounced tzvoyim. I would presume that the text he copied it from had a side note in it to tell you that this is a ktiv and a kri, that it's written one way and pronounced another way. Yeah, and he doesn't go into any of the other midrashim of why that's there, so I don't think I'm going to do it because it doesn't add to anything that he's said. Umelech. Yeah, so I think the print here is a typo. That is a mercha, not a menach. So the note under umelech is a mercha, not a menach.
Okay.
So lightly connected to what's come from before and mostly moving forward into what's going to go afterwards. And we saw that with the last king in the last sentence as well. and king. Number 15, joining the coalition as the last partner and king who disposed with means and abundance as portrayed by the directional shape of the reading mark. So he's going to give out lots of stuff. Bella with Tzipcha. The motto of his orientation was expressed by his name, Bella Vivloa, to swallow, stressing that everything pleasant to be swallowed, like food, drinks, etc., is the essence of life and should be consumed, as revealed by the closing shape of the reading mark, of the directional reading mark. So here is somebody who is a hedonist, somebody who says you take the pleasure and you bring it into yourself, and then you pause. That's who you are. Heat soar, it soar, with the stabilizing pasu. His economical potential and reserves rendered him the prestige which he enjoyed. It soar on the south of the Dead Sea, which was fertile and supplied food for the entire area. So because it was a place of plenty and a place of being able to give to others and therefore to trade with others, therefore a wealthy place, it was a place where you could have everything and enjoy it, and if you had the resources to pay for it, so therefore by all means go ahead and live it up. And again, that's the philosophy that the geography imposed on them, the king imposed on them, and they had no one to suppress it. As we read through the sentence, the one thing that I want you to really notice is Shin Av with pause before, pause after. He is the be all and end all. Asu milchama et bera melech Sedom et birsha melech Amora Shin Av melech Adma v'shem Ever melech Tzvoyim melech Bela Yitzor. And we will go on. 14.3. Kol Ele with two pashtalot, again a doubled note because of the accented syllable. The diversified ideologies proposed by all those kings and kinglets were essentially similar in nature, and by that they were spontaneously inclined to gather in political groups for common actions, as indicated by the double directional shape of the reading mark. Even though they're different, they had similarities in that they were all worshipping the intermediary, and therefore they could get together, chavru, linked up, with the two parts katon. Thus, the leaders of these neighboring regions linked up for a mutual purpose of revolt against exploitation and supremacy by the ruling countries, adding their reserves and theories to reach a status of parity with their opponents, as pointed out by the bipartite shape of the reading. So they wanted to end up on top, and they knew that they had to get together, even though getting together wasn't something that they particularly relished or thought that they would like to do. So two parts there, and that's why. El Emek, to a valley with a Tzipcha. Backwards looking notes, like pause after it. Number 3, in order to mask their presence, they came to a valley of low land to be shielded by the surrounding topographical features of an elevated surface, as referenced backwards by the directional shape of the reading mark. So they figured we've got a secure place here. They've come to a place where they felt that the geography is going to help them in their battles. Hasidim, of the Sidim, with the stabilizing at Nachtah, because of the convenient location offered by the ground, they also took advantage of the coverage of the foliage of dense vegetation of the Sidim fields, which would keep their assembly top secret, as shown by the stabilizing shape of the reading mark. because this was a safe place to plan for a war, it had both geographical advantages and cover, so that you could hide your numbers and hide. They felt this was a good place. It, with the tzipcha, backwards looking, pause after it. Number 5, the preparation was thoughtfully arranged, and it was considered to be successfully organized, as stressed by the reverse inclination of the directional reading line. Looking back, they thought this is a good plan. Good place to have the meeting. Yam, a sea. Muna, mercha, forward looking, slight connection to what's come from before. Eventually, this fruitful area of gardens was turned into a sea with no life in it, as denoted by the directional shape of the related reading line. So, normally when we read Yam HaMelech, you think, okay, that's one phrase. You read it together. Because of the rigors of this translation, we have to say that the word Yam got its own note, so therefore you have to define it by itself. And he's saying that even though they thought it was a good place, later on it's going to turn into an ocean. It's going to turn into water-covered area. Hamelach, of the salt, with the stabilizing sof pasuk. The high content of the salt within the water of the sea did not permit any growth or foster the existence of any vital organisms. And again, I'm not quite sure why that definition gives it stability, other than the fact that it's a place where you wouldn't expect your enemy to be, because nobody can have a place to live there, because it's not a place with real water. And the remark, Emek Hasidim, Valley of Fields. In the last 3 sentences, there is an obvious phonetic or grammatical distortion of various names or impressions. Aryoch, Goyim, Sidim, instead of Sadim or Sadot. It therefore indicates the perverted character of the respected subjects or objects. Yam HaMelech, Emek Hasidim. Apparently, according to the Torah, the birthplace of the Dead Sea and the place of Sodom and Gomorrah, etc., should date from Abraham. But the Dead Sea was part of the Middle Eastern cliff, which extends from Turkey along the Jordan River to the Dead Sea in Saudi Arabia. All of this is prehistoric, but it's a nice legend. So, the question becomes, at what point do we reject the facts that we have on the ground now and accept Torah legend or Torah story as truth, not allegorical? And this is a very difficult question to ask. But I feel that at this point we have to force ourselves to say, okay, so what's going on here? And we always have this difficulty when the scientific extrapolation of things conflicts with the Torah's account of things. And the example that I usually give people is the example that I gave in Parshat Noach of the concept of the rainbow. What does it say? After the flood, God says, "Et kashti natati b'anan." I'm going to put my rainbow in the sky. Now, we all know that a rainbow is water that's refracting through the light that's refracting through the water particles in the sky, and therefore we see this concept of the light being split into all of its component colors. At Kashti Natati Danan, after the flood, there's going to be a rainbow, but before the flood there wasn't. So, physics change. The world, we consider the rules constant. And therefore, we have to reject the fact that the Dead Sea was vital before and is a Dead Sea now. It didn't have to be that way. It has to be that way if you consider the laws of geophysics to be constant. That if it's that low now, it must have been that low before. If it's that bottom part where all the water flows down to and then evaporates, then of course it's going to be full of salt and it's going to be dead. But if it suddenly lost elevation at this point and accumulated the salt from then on in afterwards, okay, we don't have geological proof of that, but the Bible story does support the fact that there might have been a cataclysm of that extent that happened there.
Well, they have earthquakes in that part of Israel.
So
Major
again,
ones every 100 years.
This is part of a rift valley.
They just said.
Did it fall 400 feet below sea level all of a sudden during an earthquake? At this point, it's not beyond conceivable, but it's a much more violent geologic event than we've had anywhere else. So again, we have to struggle with this tension of, is the Torah allegory, is the Torah fact? Torah is never presented to us as a true exacting history book. It's always presented as an overloaded text that has some allegory in it, some exact historical detail in it, some name distortions because you're telling the person's philosophy, not necessarily what his name was at the time. So we're seeing that struggle playing out here in what we're reading in the text. And I didn't want to let it stand without explaining that both views have validity. And you have to always question when your logic takes you somewhere else than what the Torah is taking you. Is there room in there for the Torah story as well? So I think we had to get there. We're going to read the sentence, and as we read through, we're going to notice the separation between the word who, it, and Yam HaMelech. And in my mind, rather than saying that this is a denial of the Torah story, this is calling the Torah story a legend, you're separating out the two in time. Semek Hasidim before, pause, who, that's it. Now it's Yam HaMelech. And I think that pause that's implied by the Tipcha is perhaps giving us what it was before and what it is now. Kol elech avru el emek hasidim hu Yam HaMelech. And I think maybe we're going to end here for the evening, because we're going to get into the war for next week.
Very good.
You know,
I guess for 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, right?
Mm.
Shkar, talk to me.
Yeshikar.